Good evening, and welcome all to our live session today. As I start the session today, I just want to introduce myself and to introduce all of us. My name is Timothy Matheka. I'm from Tanari Trust, and it's an awesome opportunity to have us today here. And even as we engage, I pray that we may be able to engage on topic which we are talking about, which is about gender-based violence. And I'll just go around. First of all, I'll let my panelists for today to introduce themselves. I think it will be ideal. I won't want to go around, but just to mention that we'll be having a very good panel today, who will be actually people who have gone through and also experts who will be sharing on this matter today. So I want to start with the first person who's next to me is Sylvia. So Sylvia, you are good to go.
Hi, so my name is Sylvia Kangeve. I am a volunteer at Tanari Trust. I am also a victim stroke survivor of GBV, and I'll be sharing my story today. Thank you.
Yes, great. Next, we'll have Mercy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mercy Nzuki. I'm a certified psychologist by profession, working for LVCT Health. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, great. And lastly but not least, we have Joshua. Also, Joshua will be introducing himself. Joshua.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Joshua Nyolo. I am a program officer at LVCT Health. I run a program which is an intervention of dreams project, which is called SASA.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for introducing yourself and the panelists. And even as we start today, we want to start it and make it simple. Because of time, we'll just dive in directly to what we're going to be talking today. And I'll just start by just asking very quickly, just ask Sylvia. Sylvia, maybe can you share with us what is your experience as a victim, now survivor of GBV?
So mine is it's a bit of a long story, long short. But my first experience with GBV was when I was very young. I was in preschool, I was in preschool. I was very small. So at that time, my stepfather really used to beat my mom. Of course, the details are not they're a bit blunt, but I just remember her being beaten like all the time, And for me, it got to a point of now I became scared of him, because what happened is the few instances I can maybe remember is like there's a time like he would just beat her for no reason. Like for no reason. There's a time we used to go to a certain Baptist church near where we used to live. But my mom is originally from PCA. So I think she decided to go to PCA. So when we went, your dad comes, and he never used to live with us. But now, see, daddy amekuja to live with us. Oh, at a Sunday tulienda church PCA. And that was a reason for him to beat my mom, because my mom was not obeying or something along those lines. I remember him beating even my aunties who used to live with us. Like with him, everything was like I didn't know what triggered him, so I became very afraid. And there's a time I shared this story on Facebook. It was Father's Day, I think, a few years back, and I wrote about how I got to a point I became so scared of him because I didn't know what to tick him off. But there's a time I had a cough, nilikuwa naogopa kukohoa mbele yake because sasa nilikuwa naona huyu mtu anafanya kitu yote anapiga madhi. So I would sit there with him, and when the cough comes, I stay in. And then when I go to like the bedroom or something, I go cough from there. So I did it like 3 times. Then he noticed. Then he calls me and he's like, "Kaa hapo, kwa nini hauko?" You know. But that went on for a while. And then at some point, they parted ways with my mom. But at this point, maybe I should just, I think I don't say the devil, but my neighbor, our immediate neighbor that was growing up, her parents were also very abusive. I remember one instance when they were actually coming from maternity, like their child they just gotten a small child, and like 30 minutes later, wametoka wakikimbizana na majimoto wanataka kufight, So for us, me and my neighbor, like our parents fighting used to be, it was very normal. We used to laugh about it, because and then we were in the same school. So in the morning I go get them and then they're like, ngoja kidogo wako huko ndani wanapigana, we laugh. But you see, you're small and you don't understand, what is actually happening inside. So this happened, but after some time, my mom and my stepdad separated, and we stayed peacefully for a very long time until 2008, 2007, after the post-election violence, 2008, my mom gets married again to this guy. So this guy was classic narcissist. Nowadays we know what narcissism was. Back then we were just like, nina kwanga mbaya na huyu mtu. And so it started with very subtle things like, being rude. And at that point, I'm in Form 4, I am a grown-up. I can tell this person is even being emotionally abusive. It's just, we did not know the words to say it, but you could see the way he would talk to her and the kind of things he would do, But eventually, now it became violent again. And I remember the first time he beat her, fortunately or unfortunately, he did not know I was in the house because I had gone to school and then I'd gone to college. Now this is like 2 years after they've stayed together, and he has been, insulting her and doing all these things, telling her not to go to family functions, the whole isolating someone and all that. So I had gone to school. I was in college at that point. So I had gone to school and had not come back home until Saturday. So when I came back on Saturday, my sister at this point is in high school. So it's just the 3 of us in the house. So I get home, and weirdly that day I had this I was scared. My instincts were just kila mahali, jumpy. Anyway, so I slept before they got home. But at some point in the middle of the night, I start hearing banging of doors and funny noises. So in my head, I'm like, waizi wamekuja. So I stayed still. And told myself, let me just keep quiet. Kama ni waizi waibe wasijue niko hapa ndani. So I stayed still for a few minutes until, because my mom's bedroom was right next to mine, I had her cry. Like I could hear the sobbing. So I wake up and I go and open the door, and my mom is, curled in this fetal position. She's been punched, she's bleeding, her eye is swollen, And now, because none of them knew I was in the house, so even this guy now was shocked. So when my mom saw me, I think maybe she felt at least kuna mtu. So she ran downstairs. She runs downstairs. I follow her. So she went outside. There was a tap outside. So she's anajaribu kujipanguza damu, with the water and everything to clean up. So this guy comes downstairs and locks us out. It's like 3 a.m. Akatufungia. So fortunately or unfortunately, the house where we used to live, the way there's that glass and then there's the lock. So we broke it from outside, opened for ourselves, tukaingia. So that day my mom was like, nimechoka, nini, we need to move. So, and then she's like, because she doesn't want this guy to know that she's moving, tutahama chini ya maji. So what happened, I gathered a couple of my friends, and when we decided leo ndio siku ya kuhama, so we just waited for the guy to wake up in the morning and go to work kama kawaida. We had not pre-packed, so you can imagine moving a whole house, like packing in the morning and actually moving. So we pack, we move, we'd gotten a house and we moved. So we stayed in that house for 2 weeks. Long story short, my mother went back to this guy. And when I asked her, the responses were, no, not the best. I was, she was like, a guy, when someone asks you to forgive them, you accept. Just stories that, but now at this point, I was like, we are going back to where we were, Kitambo. And I'm like, we had healed from those things of Kitambo. Now we are back here again. So anyway, she moved back in. Now, of course, I moved back in because I was still young. I had nowhere to go. So now at that point, the emotional abuse continued. It went on for some time. Then a few months later, on this day now, schools have been closed. My sister is at home. So me, I'm in the bedroom sleeping. And then this guy comes and he's like, no, I'm sleeping. And then my sister comes and wakes me up in the middle of the night. She's like, amka, nini, mom, sijui mama amejifungia kwa choo downstairs analia or something along those. Yeah. So I wake up, I go downstairs and I call my mom. I'm like, what's happening? So sijui this guy came drunk, what. So me, I got mad. I asked him, si wachane tu na sisi. I was like, what do you, unatuliza nini? Si utuache. You found us living peacefully. Umesumbua mama yetu, And he's like, mimi nitapiga mama yako na hakuna kitu utafanya. I think that is the one day in my life I wished I was a man and I could actually fight another man. So when he told me, naweza piga mama yako na hakuna kitu unaweza fanya, I hit him with a stool to prove that kuna kitu naweza fanya akipiga mama yangu. And so at that point he grabs me, he wants to beat me. So when my sister saw he wanted to beat me, my sister ran to the kitchen and got a knife. So my sister is there like, wachana na sister yangu, blah blah blah. My mom is holding my sister. At that point, now when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing my mom held my sister. But back then I was like, mama badala anitete. She's making my sister not come to my rescue or whatever. But well, in retrospect, we would have probably had another story in our hands. But so yeah. So he tried to beat me, but I was able to resist. But unfortunately, he pulled braids from my head, and I had a kipach here for quite some time. Alafu masi nilikuwa nimeshuka afro kinky, and you know how tight afro kinky zinakuanga. So alining'oa hapa for a very long time nilikuwa nimeangusha nywele on the side that was bald. So that day anyway, now I think when my mom saw this was getting out of hand, she was just like, wachaneni na yeye, blah blah blah. And me, I went and slept and moved on. But this went on for a very long time. My mom stayed with this guy for almost 5 years. And what I can say is by the time she was leaving him, my mom was a shell of the person she used to be. She had even become dark. My mom is very light. She had become dark, stress. Alikuwa amekonda. The way people say mtu amekondeshwa na stress, alikuwa amekonda. Financially, of course, when you're stressed, I feel like things just don't work. But thank God, eventually she was able to, walk out and leave him. But now on my side, me, at some point in 2019, I went through depression. And when I think about it now, I think it was just all these things coming together and finally exploding. Because it had gotten to a point, I had become like what's the word? I had even become like I was the one taking care of my mother, you know, always worrying about her, always being anxious. Is she okay? Will this person harm her? What will happen? And all these things. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that was it. It was just me being there, observing, seeing what being in that situation can actually be do to the person. And it's not just the victim, you know, the one who's being hit, but even the people around. Because there's a time, like, even my sister, there's a time she had become very unruly, you know, and her, she's a very quiet person, but you can tell it is, you know, kids don't know how to express themselves. But the environment we were staying in was very, very volatile. Yeah. Team.
I think Tim, I'm a freeze, eh? Oh, and she's okay. So thank you so much, Sylvia, for sharing. I can imagine how difficult it was for you, considering you're young and now you have to take up that role of being a parent, actually, and taking care of trying to like support your mother even as she's going through that physical violence in itself. Yeah. So you notice that hurting people will always hurt. Like you will find the perpetrator will hurt. Now your stepfather was the perpetrator. He will always, you know, hurt someone, hurt your mom, and that actually affects you as a child. You see, in as much as you're not able to really express what is happening at that particular time when you're young, you're able to express that. You're able to actually understand what is happening at that particular point in time. And you see how in as much as you're not able to really express what is happening at that particular time when you're young, you're able to express that. You're able to actually. Yeah, there is an echo, I think. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Mercy. Can continue.
Yeah, so like you're able, and you see how it actually, how GBV actually leads to mental health cases, you know, like increase in mental health case. And your case is actually one of the scenario that showcase what happens, yeah? And normally the children will be caught in between, yeah? And you realize if you don't have a place where you are able to vent out your frustration, vent out how you're feeling at that particular point, then it piles up and it becomes, you slowly slide into depression. Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to point that out and appreciate the fact that you are able to share your experience with all of us. Yeah, over to you, Timothy.
Yes, thanks so much, Mercy. Even to give an opportunity for Joshua, any comment in line of this, because I know you deal with this a lot.
Yes, I want first to congratulate Sylvia for sharing, you know, a story. It's really unfortunate that you know, many women, as we talk right now, and even children are going through a lot of violence. Right now, as we talk, from my experience and from what you know, I see every day, including today, you know, I get so many cases of children who have been violated, women who have been violated. Those are the majority of the population, you know, compared to men and even to boys. Although now, as we talk, we have, you know, in some areas and some places where, you know, young boys are being violated, you know, through sodomy and, you know, most of them are not able to share their experiences and, you know, to speak so that they can get services. So it's I would say, you know, we really need to really discuss a lot on how to support, you know, these cases, because what I would say is the many gaps that we are having and the way we have normalized violence, because you can see, you know, by the time they came to realize now they need to get out of this and they need to move out of this kind of, you know, scenario and relationship, you know, they had taken a lot of time. And of course, damage had already been done and so on. So we really need to see how we can empower our people, our communities, and even speak about violence, because it's happening left, right, and center every day. I'm saying even today under a very, very interesting case, and quite disturbing, indeed, of a girl who has been going through a lot of sexual violence. And the mother has been seeing that, and even the mother has been, one of the perpetrators, I would say, because he has been bringing men to sleep with this particular girl. So it is true, these cases are many, many indeed, and we need to come out and speak. We need to know where to get help. We need to know that silence is what kills. Yeah. Thank you, Timothy.
Thank you, Joshua. Maybe to ask, would you mind sharing with us some few statistics in line of what is happening on the gender-based violence, both sexes, both genders, the ladies and the men? What are the current statistics, and how do they look like in our country?
Okay. The statistics are quite, worrying, because you realize, like, we have a report which was launched in 2019, for violence against children, which was saying that 1 out of 2 children in Kenya, they have experienced violence. 1 out of 2, and that shows that many children are being violated. There's another study from the Raising Voices, an organization called Raising Voices in Uganda, and which shows 3 out of 3 women, 1 of them has been violated in their lifetime. So we have so many youth who live in homes and the communities where violence, has become a norm. Globally, we have over 1 million children who are being violated every year. And therefore, this shows that violence has become like a normal thing, has been normalized in our homes and in our communities. Yeah.
That's a big statistics of sharing of people who are going through violence, especially for the children statistics. Thank you for sharing that, Joshua. Turning to Mercy, maybe I can ask, there's a question which we were asking ourselves. What is our mental and social construct that leading us to be violent? What is this? What is this that is happening?
So on that, you realize, especially just first pegging it on hurting people's hearts, either consciously or unconsciously. So you find that the perpetrators, just as Joshua has alluded, so you will find that in most often than not, there's a past that they went through. Either they were violated when they were growing up, so that is the norm that actually they are used to. Some other things is culture also depicts, because there are some cultures where, like, you find that the husband takes over and the woman has lesser voice, you see. So it's power imbalance at the end of the day that brings about that aspect of violence. It could be physical violence, as you've talked about. It could be emotional violence. It could be sexual, financial as well. Like you're not even allowed to, as a wife or even as a father of the home, you're not allowed to actually do something that will earn you an income. So like you are just told to stay in the house. So you will find like there are so many things that lead to this mental constructs, backgrounds, culture, those are some of the key ones that actually lead to that.
Thank you, Mercy. Maybe throw it back before I come to Sylvia, to Joshua. I want to ask, what needs to change? What do we need to do? Like, what is the solution that we need to start with? From, as Mercy has mentioned about our socialization, our environment, and even how we are being constructed and culture and all that. what needs to start to change for us to see difference that we need to stop gender-based violence? Joshua, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, now, just as I said earlier, the root cause of violence, against women and children and even men is the issue of imbalance of power. Are you able to hear me? Team and the team, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Joshua.
Right, thank you. Thank you. So I'm saying the root cause of violence against women, the root cause of violence against children and even men is imbalance of power. So when there is imbalance of power, you find violence will always happen. What I mean by imbalance of power is in any relationship, whether it's an intimate partner, whether it is a husband and a wife, people who are in relationships, anybody, if people are not able to balance their power, either economically, in their daily lives, and so on and so forth, you will find violence will always happen. And this has been, I would say, especially in Africa, our community norms have always been a thriving point to violence against women and against, violence against women and children and men. So our community norms, if we could change our community norms, then we would say, in a way, we would help, reduce violence in our communities. Because what does our community norms say? You find, a woman is not supposed, in their places, women are not supposed to work. There are places women are not supposed to say anything, especially if decisions have been made by men. For instance, I have a case of a girl who was raped some time back last year in November. And right now, as we talk, that time when she was raped, she also became pregnant. She didn't go to hospital. So she realized after some time, she became pregnant. So right now, as we talk, justice has never been, done. Because when the case arrived at the police station, that community, that particular community, the elders came together and they went to see the OCS and they withdrew the case so that they would discuss the case at home. So justice was not done. And, the girl was not consulted on what, she wanted to happen about this particular case, whether she wanted to pursue this case in the court of law or, what the feelings, her feelings were, at that particular time. And when she came to our office, because she's a dreams girl, I've taken up the matter. We have gone back to the police. And we have taken the girl to a rescue center as we now try to see whether now the police will arrest the perpetrator and the justice will be done. So our community norms, if we would deal with them, we would change the perspective that the communities have on issues of power, that women have decisions. They can also make decisions at home. Women, they can make decisions about their finances. They can make decisions about the number of children they want to have. They can make decisions on what should be eaten in that particular, home, and other decisions about their families. So our community norms need to change if we are to finish violence against women. And how I pray that we would have programs like the program that I run is called SASA. It's a community program. We discuss about power balance in the communities. We sit down with them. We talk about norms that, encourage violence, like, issues of FGM and so on. And we discuss on daily basis, anytime, anywhere, any place. That is what we do. And I've seen somehow it has changed the perspective, the mindset of people in our communities. But you see, it is just a small population. It's not, we don't reach many people. How I pray that we would reach as many people as possible through, media, use of social media, the print media, electronic media, and so on and so forth. So I would talk of norms. That is where I would put a lot of emphasis. Timothy.
Yeah, thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua. So what I'm hearing mostly is about the imbalance, the power imbalance, and the key thing, yeah. And I think yes, and yeah, and for me is to ask this question because I can hear it's more from a lot of the let me say the gender which is female, which is being affected a lot, and being in our African setup that we are highly patriarchal in our nature. The key thing which I wanted to ask is that let me flip it to this side for the men. What really, if imbalance is an issue for mostly for the ladies or the female, what happens when it is the other way around for the men? What happens when when the man is now being, or the male figure is going through gender-based violence? And what happens there? Is it power imbalance, or is it a question of the imbalance has moved totally and it has reverted 100%? Just to look at from the African setup, maybe if you can share more on the men's perspective. For the men who are affected by gender-based violence, what exactly happens?
All right, thank you, Timothy, for that question. And before I answer that question, I would say that it is true that we have men who are being violated. And unfortunately, most men don't speak out. They never come out and say, I'm being violated. One time I had a case, not very long time ago, but just last year, over a case of a border guy who was being violated by the wife, because that time the border had broken down and the man was not working. So he was told by the wife, since you are not working and you are not bringing anything, you will not eat in this house. And the man was really, being harassed and so on and so forth. So you realize, and the man was not, didn't want to speak out. He just told one of the best friends that, I'm going through this kind of violence, but don't share anyone and don't tell anyone that I'm going through this. So many men never talk about violence. And I would always say, violence happening to men is also the issue of power imbalance. Many men who are being violated is either they are weak in one way or the other. And when I talk of weakness in quotes, I would say maybe they don't have money. Either you are not providing in the house, is the woman who's providing. So for that reason, since it's the woman who's providing, you will not speak in that house. And many times you'll be forced to do things that you feel you are uncomfortable doing. You'll be told you must wash clothes, you must do things, house chores, because you are not working. And maybe according to you, you'll feel this is violence, because we are supposed to sit down and see how we can handle our work in the house and so on and so forth. Again, those few cases I've gotten where men have been violated is always about the issue of power imbalance. Even boys who have gone through sodomy. I have some of them who have visited our office, and some of them who have been, sodomized. And the main reason is because the one who did that particular act had a lot of power. Some of them have physical power. Mimi naweza kukushika nikakuangusha chini na nikakubaka, nikakulawiti. So that is why you find violence is about power imbalance. So it is when the reverse, what you have said is the reverse. Ukiona reverse is now when violence may happen sasa kwa wanaume. Na sio wengi, it's not many men who are being violated. We have a few of them. And now, because of now what I've even said, our community norms, men are not supposed to cry. Men are not supposed to say they are being violated. That is why they never come out, because they will be seen they are very weak. Hawawezi chochote, they cannot speak in a gathering of men because they are just weak. So that's why I'm saying it's always about the issue of imbalance of power and the norms that we as African people have continued to use, so that we can now, violate either men or women. Back to you, Timothy.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua. I enjoy. I'm really, really being shocked in the point of this issue of imbalance. And why am I saying that is because the way it is broken down, I think for me, I've grown up knowing gender-based violence is only physical, but it looks like it's more than just physical. There are other aspects, the emotional part, which you're saying about the man, especially for the men, is that you're going through emotional, let me say, violence, which you're going through indirectly, and you are holding it inside, and you are unajikaza kama kimwanaume, and it is affecting men a lot. So for me, maybe to go back to, before I go to, sorry, I was supposed to go back to Sylvia, but I'll be to Sylvia very soon. It's good to Mercy again and ask, what is this psychological part of it, that this issue of imbalance, that we are aware, maybe I can say we are aware, what is it stopping us to actually understand that there is an issue of imbalance and we need to manage? I don't know whether it's a question of equity or equitability of how to handle this.
It's thank you so much for that question, Timothy. So it's pegged on awareness creation, because you will realize the statistics even Joshua has mentioned, that especially among children, you will realize that that lack of awareness, that it's actually violence that comes to play. So even the reporting mechanisms, most of us are not even aware. How do you start reporting your dad is violating your mom, either physically, emotionally, or in whichever form? So it comes back to awareness, like being able to know that this is actually violence. And it does not really, because you see there are other cultures where they say when you hit the lady or when you punch the lady, it's translated to as love. So now sharing out that information to the general population, for them to understand that when somebody punches you, when they tell you something that makes you feel diminished, then that is actually emotional violence, verbalizing something that makes you feel you don't have any worth. If they punch you, that's physical violence in itself. So creating that awareness will really help. The other thing is self-awareness. Some of us are very aware, that this is actually violence. You will meet that even people who are, they've gone through, school, they've gone through higher learning, but at the same time, they're still quiet in their houses and they are violated by their partners, but they're not able to speak out. So what's the challenge there? It could be also the self-esteem. Yeah, you feel like if you talk about this, then what happens to your family? What happens to you as a person? You feel like you cannot be able to gear on without your significant other. So those are some of the psychological things that come to play, even as you notice that the survivors are trying to come out of that particular violence, but now they don't know how they can be able to detach, because they are wondering what are some of the implications that will come with that. Look at a child who is raped, for instance, the psychological torture that comes with that. So being able to share that they were raped either by their relatives or even by their, their parents. So what does that communicate? There's that fear that comes in, yeah? If I share, what will happen to me as a child? So there are so many things that come in terms of the psychological element of it that may hinder somebody from actually sharing about the violence they're experiencing.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mercy. So as I hear that, and maybe thank you so much, Lorna, for sharing on Facebook Live's pages, saying community sensitization, including our religious cycles, will go a long way in reducing these cases and encourage those violated to seek help. So what Joshua exactly was saying earlier, how can we sensitize it more within our community setup so that it can be able to talk. So even as we continue, I would like to encourage guys who are on our live pages, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Facebook or YouTube, please, you can share your comment there. We'll be able to address it as we continue and also do that. So going back to Sylvia, there's something which you shared, and maybe if you allow me to ask, the mark which you got when you were young and the point of the violence which you got, what has been the, let me say, the reflection for you every time you see it? if I was to ask, in the case of maybe what you're going through, the point of
Okay, it's not really a mark, yeah?
yeah.
It's not a mark. What happened? No, hair was pulled out from my scalp, eh? So for a very long time I had a patch. I had a patch like ni kama nimenyoa mohawk, but unintentionally. Yeah. So the hair grew eventually, but you see the the emotional scar, let me put it like that, took longer to heal than the hair actually growing. Yeah. I wanted to add something to what Mercy was saying. When Mercy was talking about being aware that you are being abused, even if it's emotionally. From my experience and what I have come to see is, rarely does someone punch you on the first day. You see, when someone punches you, like the first time, your reaction will be to flee, to go like, mbona amenichapa. But me, what I saw is that emotional abuse, and someone breaks you down so much, they tell you are worthless, where hakuna mtu anakutaka, like my mom is a single mom of 2 girls, so probably, I don't know, but probably she was told hakuna mwanaume mwingine anaweza kutaka, so by the time this person is hitting you, enyewe you truly believe you deserve to be hit. Umeamini yenyewe, by the way, hapa, I am worthless, hakuna mtu mwingine ananipenda, wacha tu nikae hapa, because you have to break someone down before you see. I don't know whether you've heard, there's a story, I don't know how true it is, but people say that this famous boxer alikuwa aitwa Muhammad Ali, he would fight with words. He would tease his opponent kabisa and throw off game. Tell them all these funny things before they fight. So, and words have power. So you see, no matter how prepared you are, like even in this case for boxing, no matter how prepared you are and then someone is making fun of you, it will throw you off your game. And I think that is what a lot of abusers do. Start with emotional abuse. Because you see, as long as I believe I am worthless, as long as I believe I am stupid, as long as I believe there's nothing I can do right, when you beat me, I'll feel like I deserve it. And so for me, I think that is where the awareness comes in. Like even learning these cues, that even when you're dating, let me just digress a bit, that even when you're dating, you can tell, the way this person speaks to you when they're angry, the way they do ABCD, the way they react to situations, they're supposed to be those cues. And I feel like, unfortunately, we were not prepared for some of these things, even as we were growing up, and we should be able to, kuna hizo cues. Like when you see, you're like, yeah, this person, something is not right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for sharing that. So maybe to open it up even more to maybe the people who are with us here, the panelists from LCVT, Mercy, and your colleagues. I can ask this question from a point of, let me break it down to now to the young people. I know we have seen scenarios like the last scenario, which I saw was a young man in Kisumu, 19 years old. Is it Kisumu, if I'm not wrong, if I be corrected? Went, hacked his grandmother, cut his head, and went to the police station with a head. What are the things which are happening, especially for which we can share to, we can just go down to this part of how can we empower people about this issue when they're younger, and how does it look like, and what is happening maybe on the ground, which you have experienced or And I would like this moment to maybe introduce to all the other guys who are here from LCVT, can even share. But I'll start with you, Mercy, and then I'll give opportunity for the others to share.
So at the community level, I know Joshua has talked about SASA, and probably he will share more on that. I have seen also Anne Buchiri has joined us, who also is well versed with the GBV cases that are happening currently at the moment. And yes, for me, I have seen that, especially among young people. So there's a lot of intimate partner violence, yeah? And also what you've mentioned about that young person who actually physically violated the caregiver, yeah? So for me, it also goes into like it could either be some other factors that come to play in terms of looking at drugs and substance abuse. You notice that so many young people nowadays abuse drugs, especially bang, alcohol. You know, it's very like so many young people abuse that, and as a result, at times, because now when somebody takes bang, for instance, you notice that they experience a euphoric or a feel good feeling that at times will make them come out of touch with reality. And that particular time, we refer to that as psychosis. Like they go through an episode where they are out of touch with reality, and they might do things that actually, at the end of the day, they will be asking themselves, how did they get themselves to actually do that particular act? So there's that element to it, there's that angle to it that also causes a lot of increase in the GBV cases. The other thing is now, especially among young people, you'll notice like being able to communicate some of the things that probably they disagree with. You will find like at times it's very hard to communicate that, especially a young person who's gone through a particular issue and they are feeling violated, or they're feeling as if they are not heard. So communicating it to their caregiver who sort of is trying to understand them and trying to like guide them on how they can live life. Sometimes there could be a disconnect on that, especially on this age. With this age, we are looking at Generation Z and we're looking at Alpha generation, who are used to like, you need to tell me why I'm doing this. If you don't explain it to me, then I don't understand why I should do it. And then you're looking at parents who were socialized at that particular point in time where they were told, this is what you need to do, and you should not question your mother or your father. So you see there's a bit of conflict that will erupt out of that. Yeah, so probably I can invite Anne to share more in terms of that aspect.
Karibu Anne.
Thank you, Mercy. Allow me not to switch on my camera, and thank you for inviting me to these discussions. I've just caught some of what Mercy has said. My bias is towards violence against children. I'm passionate about it, from understanding why it happens, where it happens, who are the perpetrators, and most importantly, how to address it. Now, Mercy has very well elaborately shown how we've normalized violence against children in the community. Because my parents disciplined me using a cane, that is how I'm disciplining my child. Children in society are to be seen and not to be heard. So a lot of the cases that even Joshua handles, it takes a lot to get out, that information out from that child to be able to actually say that I'm undergoing violence. And it's very unfortunate because, children are the leaders of they are future generation, and here we are hurting them. Mercy and Joshua have very well elaborately shown what happens in our community, and how the people who children trust the most, the caregivers, the parents, the church community, the community leaders, people they look up to, unfortunately, are the same people who the recent survey showed that they're the perpetrators. The places where the child is supposed to feel safest, their home, on their way to school, the school, are the places where violence against children is happening, and the most atrocious form of it being sexual violence. Our boys are being sodomized, our girls are being adolescent girls, and the younger ages are being defiled, getting pregnant. We have issues with teenage pregnancy, but my biggest concern has been how we handle it as the adults. There's so much we need to put into the media on how to report these things. We tend to say a girl age 16 pregnant has fallen pregnant in teenage pregnancies, rather than saying, there's been however many adult male perpetrators, pedophiles. So we always seem to highlight the victim and not the perpetrators. And that doesn't do any favor to the victims, to the survivors. The focus is always on the victim, shaming them, blaming them, making them feel like it's their responsibility, even for the adult survivors, rather than making the perpetrators accountable. We had this issue that was it was rife in the media, and it brought on this debate on how should media be reporting such cases? Should we talk about a woman who was drunk in a building, or should we talk about the man who tried to murder a lady who they'd come into contact with? There's a lot of work that needs to go into how we report cases. There's a lot of work that needs to go into creating safe spaces for children, for adults to be able to speak out on the experience of violence and it being handled in a sensitive manner that it should be. So as I said, very briefly, my bias is on violence against children, understanding why and how it happens, and most importantly, how we as adults, because data shows that we are the biggest perpetrators from caregivers, how we need to change our mindset in this current day and age, so that for the forms that we've normalized, like caning my child to discipline them, we actually recognize that that's negative discipline and we need to adopt positive discipline. So that's where I am at with trying to raise awareness of how it doesn't matter how we were brought up, it wasn't necessarily the right way, and we need to acknowledge that, and how we can do better for this generation, because if it's not addressed, data shows, science shows, study shows that these children will normalize this form of violence, and then when they become adults, they'll either become perpetrators or victims. So it's a cycle that will forever go on until somebody is very deliberate in breaking it at household level, at community level, at policy level, at service providers level. We all have a role to play in ensuring that our children, and indeed our adults who are vulnerable, are safer and living in societies that are free from violence. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I think the key thing which I brought out, I think that's what I was yearning to share, is the part where you're saying it's actually the adults who are doing this to their children. So what you've said about the cycle, it's very big. Like if the adults are the ones who are responsible and actually they're doing this to the children, I'm trying to imagine when the children get older, it becomes the vicious circle which you're talking about. And the reporting has to be very important, what you've said. Thank you so much, Anne, for sharing that. Right, I think I will being that we just have 7 minutes to the end of the session, I think I'll want to give Joshua maybe an opportunity. We'll go round. So I'll start with Joshua to share something, and then we'll be able to wrap it up as we.
Right. Thank you very much, Timothy. As we wrap up, I would say that sincerely we need to continue these discussions and sit down with the relevant people who are concerned in issues of addressing issues against women and against men. Because you realize that our systems is, we talk of the children department, we talk of people who are supporting cases, like the chiefs, the village elders, and so on. Those are where these cases, most of the time, they lose, their meaning, and they lose, their grip. And for that reason, I would say if we would just sit with these people and continue to discuss on how we can support, because for instance, in my case, I would say I have a problem with the police. Most of the time, the cases which reach the police is only 1 or 2 out of maybe 20 cases or even 100 cases, which will see the light of the, we'll see legal justice being done, and we'll see that, justice has been done to this particular, survivor. So for that reason, I would say, I don't know how we would sit down with these people. I don't know how we would change our systems. Many times I know there are, sensitizations, There are meetings happening all over, but it seems like still we have not gotten this thing right. And it's like corruption. I would say corruption is keeping, bringing this issue down and making this issue become a problem every day. So if we could address, these gaps, then I would say, then we would help most of the survivors, because every day we are receiving cases. Every day we are seeing children being violated, women being violated, but most of them, you send them to the hospital, they say, I cannot be seen. Today I sent a victim to MSF, and because the parent was not available, but a neighbor was available who found this particular child, they couldn't be seen, and because the child could not give consent. That's why I'm saying we really need to see how is it that we can assist one another so that these cases can see, justice. We can see, we can help our girls, we can help our women, we can help our boys and our men who are going through violence. Back to you.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua. I'll go to Sylvia.
Okay, so I think for me, the one thing I would say is people need to speak up. We really need to stop this culture for kunyamaza. When it happens and the first thing someone tells you is usiende kuambia watu mambo ya nyumbani, And what are you teaching? What are you teaching your child? What are you teaching? As in unanionyesha, like I should, abuse, I should take abuse. Is abuse what happens in homes? You get. So for me, I think people seriously need to speak up. Men, it happens to men also. So even as we are talking about it, let's not make it seem like it's only women who go through violence. There are men who go through it also. But also I do want to say that, especially if you are a parent and you are either a victim or a perpetrator of GBV, please know that your actions have ripple effects. If you're a father, for example, what are you teaching your daughter? What are you teaching your son? You're teaching your son that a man hits a woman. You're teaching your daughter that being beaten is love. I have actually once confronted someone who I know, and I was like, you have daughters. How would you feel if someone hit your daughter? As you're hitting someone, as you're hitting your wife is also someone's daughter. So how will you feel when your children grow up and their husband starts beating them? Everything has a ripple effect. And to be honest, a lot of us in our generation, we have a lot of issues because of the things that we saw growing up. But as Mercy was saying, is it Mercy or Anne? Sorry, a child is there to be seen, not heard. Yeah? And so we did not talk about a lot of these things. But now when you grow up and you sit down and have conversations with people, you realize we are a very messed up generation. We have issues that we have not dealt with. And so even as I'd say our parents, are complaining about how millennials, we have all these things and all. It's a ripple effect of the things we grew up seeing. I am happy that there is knowledge. Now we have information and we can use the information for good. So yeah, but finally, I would like to say that if you're going through something, if something happened to you, please try and heal. Try and go for counseling, do something. I don't know, Mercy, whether at the end of this, maybe you guys can give us contacts of how people can reach you, because I know, even places where people can get counseling at good prices or even free. Because I know the other thing we shy away from counseling is, you go and a session is quite expensive. But if we can get somewhere where people can talk, spaces where people can talk, spaces where people can open up and heal, it will be very important. Because otherwise, just as Anne was saying, it's a cycle, and we will bring a generation of broken people, because even hurt parents still hurt their children. It may not be physically, but it's going to be a cycle unless we break it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sylvia. Mercy?
Yes, and I really appreciate what Sylvia has said in regards to if you're going through violence, you're listening to us, either you're out there or you know somebody who is going through any form of violence that we've mentioned, you need to speak up. You can reach out to us at LVCT. We have 1190-1190. It is a toll-free line from 8 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. in the night. You'll be able to get a qualified counselor or a certified counselor who can take you through the sessions. And the beauty of it is free. Like, you can call at any time from Sunday to Sunday, and you will get somebody who can take you through. If you're not comfortable enough to reach out on call, there's another option, like you can text still at 1190. Text us, you'll be able to get a counselor who will walk you through that journey, yeah, and share out, because it's a space where you can be able to share out how you're feeling, and also will be able to guide you through. Yeah.
Thank you, Mercy. And lastly, Anne.
From my end, really, it's to appreciate the conversations and all I've had. It's amazing to hear Sylvia speak out. A few years ago, the opportunity would not have been there to hear the survivor's voice. Again, just as the children, they were there to be seen and not to be heard. Nobody would give them the time, or there was a lot of blaming and shaming and not enough validation of their experiences. So it's absolutely fantastic for such opportunities, and I hope they continue this to be the beginning of this discussion on gender-based violence against men and women as well, violence against children, and most certainly with every story, the impact would be what else for them, what are the resources available for them. So Mercy finishing off with the 1190 and all the other services that Joshua has said that clients can be referred to. It's a fantastic opportunity to have these conversations going on as we just continue to raise awareness on GBV, because there's need for it now more than ever, especially during this COVID period. So I am very grateful for this opportunity, and I hope there'll be more of this again, Timothy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you so much. And also for us, we, as TANARI, we really appreciate for this opportunity for LSCVT to come through for us today and to also engage. As you can hear, you need to seek help. Wherever you are, wherever you're watching us from, you have the opportunity, even if you know a person, a neighbor, a child, wherever you are, you have an opportunity. LCVT has already shared, there's a free toll number, 1190, which you can call. It's available from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And also you can text that number, 1111-1190. And also you can visit their website, which is lcvthealth.org, if I'm not wrong, and you can get to see how can you be helped. But because, as we said earlier, and what you're learning is that we need to be open up. We need to create self-awareness on this issue. Let not us die within ourselves. We are so many people at home now during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're in our homes, the things which are happening, and we're going through a lot, but we are asking you to actually give an opportunity for all young persons who are watching us, for every child, for every parent who's listening, even for us, for every spouse who's listening to us. We are telling you there's opportunity for you to reach out. But also, most importantly, these conversations we want to continue, because as you have heard, that we need to create ways of reporting and effective ways of reaching out, even if it is policy being affected, so that we can be able to stop this menace about gender-based violence. Lastly, we want to thank you for everyone who has been watching us, and also we'll continue this. Next week, we'll be having another session. Join us next week, but also thanking Mercy. Thank you so much, Mercy. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for opening up and giving this opportunity. From all of us here, it's good night. God bless you. And please reach out. If you're there, you can reach out. The number again, let me repeat again, is 1190, 1190. God bless you all. See you again next week.